The ATF has officially submitted a letter regulating pistol braces. They're going to give us 2 weeks to respond. There's a lot in it. What does it mean? What factors will help them determine whether your AR pistol is actually an SBR or not? I'm going to explain it all here. Stick by and watch this episode of Guns and Gadgets. Hey everybody, welcome back to Guns and Gadgets, your premier source for Second Amendment news. This is going to be an in-depth video, so sit down, grab a coffee. I'm going to explain exactly what the ATF is doing and what they're going to consider an SBR or not. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of factors, so let's get into it. First off, this letter that they have submitted that I have here is not published yet in the National Registers. What does that mean? It's not in effect yet, but once this is, the process will start, and it might be active today. So the title of this is Objective Factors for Classifying Weapons with Stabilizing Braces. You're going to have to excuse me because I have it on my screen and I'm going to be reading right from it so that I am 100% accurate so that there are no misconceptions and people don't get bad info. So the ATF is spelling out in their final rule of what they look at when they're looking at an AR pistol or an AK pistol or whatever that has a stabilizing brace on it, and what factors make it an SBR or not. So here's the summary. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives is publishing the objective factors it considers when evaluating firearms with an attached stabilizing brace to determine whether they are considered firearms under the National Firearms Act, the NFA, and or the Gun Control Act, the GCA. ATF publishes this notice to inform and invite comment from the industry and public on the proposed guidance, which is this actual title, Objective Factors for Classifying Weapons with Stabilizing Braces, prior to issuing a final document. Upon issuance of final guidance, ATF will provide additional information to aid persons and companies in complying with federal laws and regulations. This notice also outlines ATF's enforcement priorities regarding persons who, prior to publication of this notice, made or acquired, in good faith, firearms equipped with a stabilizing brace. Finally, this notice previews ATF's and the Department of Justice's plan to subsequently implement a separate process for current possessors of stabilizer-equipped firearms to choose to register such firearms in compliance with the NFA, including an expedited application process and the retroactive exemption of such firearms from the collection of NFA taxes. So there's a lot in here. The summary tells you most of it. What they're looking to do is, so let's go back to the SB tactical issue with the braces, right? And the Q issue. Everybody's saying, well, we don't know the guidelines, so how can we comply with the guidelines, right? How can we make firearms or sell firearms with braces and not have you retroactively tell us you can't sell that? Well, people were asking for the guidelines. Now they're publishing the guidelines. Now they're making them known. However, you're not going to know the intricate details of it because the ATF doesn't do that. But like it said in the summary, you'll get that once the final document is published. So you're not going to know all that stuff now. You will know it when it comes out. And then they're looking to invite the public to comment. Now the comment period, they say, is 14 days in this document. But under the Gun Control Act, it's 90 days. So I don't know if that's going to be a violation of the Gun Control Act or if they're operating under something else. There's a lot of gray area here. But I'm going to tell you everything that they're telling us right now that they're considering when determining whether this item is a pistol or if it's an SBR, a short-barreled rifle. And I'll tell you that you could have the identical firearm. You could have two of the exact same firearm and have a couple different things on this one, and it'll be an SBR, violation of the NFA, 10 years in prison, $10,000 fine or more. So again, there's a lot in this, so let's get into it. Real quick, thumbs up the video, smash the YouTube algorithm. Everybody who owns a gun needs to see this, and the only way this gets out is with your help. Please share it with everybody. Everybody you know, share it, because this information is huge. and I'm going to try to be as detailed as possible so people can watch this and know exactly what's going on. So let's jump into this. They say that generally when ATF, through FAT-D, evaluates a firearm sample, it examines its overall configuration, their physical characteristics, their objective design features that are relevant under the statutory definitions of the GCA and the NFA, and other information that directly affects the classification of a particular firearm example. Even though firearms may appear to have similar features, an ATF classification pertains only to the particular submitted sample. Because variations in submissions, applicable statutes, judicial interpretations of these statutes, the manufacturer or the maker's intent, and the objective design features supporting that intent make the general applicability of a particular classification exceedingly rare. What that means is that even though you and I might have something that looks similar, there are a bunch of factors that we'll go over that might make one or both or none of those SBRs or short-barreled shotguns thus regulated under the NFA. The letter goes into the first company that submitted the pistol brace and why they developed it, and because people with disabilities, specifically veterans who still wanted to shoot for fun, they needed some way to stabilize the AR-15 specifically, and it would help to stabilize it and reduce bruising and when shot with one arm, and the ATF says that we agree that there are legitimate uses for certain braces. So this doesn't mean that every gun with a pistol brace on it will be an SBR or an SBS. That's not what they're saying. They're saying that there are legitimate reasons to have one, and all of these factors I'm about to give you and explain to you are what we're going to look at to say, you know, yep, that is a pistol stabilizing brace, or no, that's a workaround to an SBR. Therefore, ATF is publishing this notice to aid the firearms industry and public in understanding the objective design features that FAT-D considers when evaluating firearm samples submitted with stabilizing braces or similar attachments. The objective design features ATF considers in determining whether a weapon with an attached stabilizing brace has been designed or redesigned, made or remade, and intended to be fired from the shoulder. Okay, so this is it. They include these, but they're not limited to these. ATF loves to have that gray area so they can holistically determine on a case-by-case basis whether somebody violates the NFA or the GCA. So the first one is the type and caliber. And I'll explain each one of these, and there's a few of them, so bear with me. Type and caliber of the firearm to which the stabilizing brace or similar item is installed. A large caliber firearm that is impractical to fire with one hand because of recoil or other factors, even with an arm brace, is likely to be considered a rifle or a shotgun. So you can start to think of these things. The weight and length of the firearm used with a stabilizing brace. Okay? A firearm that is so heavy that it is impractical to fire or aim with one hand, or so long that it is difficult to balance the firearm to fire with one hand, is likely to be considered a rifle or a shotgun, SBR, SBS. Length of pull. Now the length of pull refers to the distance from the trigger to the point at which the stock, or brace, reaches the shoulder, meets the shoulder, okay? This is a measurement for rifles and shotguns used to accommodate shooters of different sizes. Because an arm brace need only reach the forearm, the distance between the trigger and the back of the brace is generally expected to be shorter than the distance between the trigger and the back of a stock on a weapon designed and intended to be fired from the shoulder. This measurement is not necessarily determinative of the intent of this manufacturer, but is used in making an evaluation of the firearm. If a brace is of a length that makes it impractical to attach to a shooter's wrist or forearm, then that may demonstrate that it is not designed as a brace, but rather for shoulder fire. Explanation. I am a large person. I'm 6'1". I have large monkey mitts and long arms. So my forearm is much longer than, say, somebody who's 5'2" and small stature. So my length of pull for my pistol brace that attaches to my forearm on a smaller person might be to their bicep. Thus, my weapon, as constituted for me, held by that person, would make it an SBR. They're also going to look at the attachment method. The method of attachment of the stabilizing brace to include modified stock attachments, extended receiver extensions, and the use of spacers. Those items extend the distance between the trigger and the part of the weapon that contacts the shooter, whether it is a stock or a stabilizing brace. Use of these items indicate that the weapon is designed and intended to be fired from the shoulder because they extend the stabilizing brace beyond a point that is useful for something other than shoulder support. Then they're going to look at the stabilizing brace design features. Features of the attached brace itself are relevant to the classification of the assembled weapon, and they include the comparative function of the attachment when used as a stabilizing brace compared to its alternate use as a shouldering device. Number 2, the design of the stabilizing brace compared to known shoulder stock designs. The amount of rear contact surface area of the stabilizing brace that can be used in shouldering the weapon as compared to the surface area necessary for use as a stabilizing brace. The material used to make the attachment that indicates where the brace is designed and intended to be pressed against the shoulder for support or actually used on the arm. Any shared or interchangeable parts with known shoulder stocks, and any other feature of the brace that improves the weapon's effectiveness from the shoulder firing position without providing a corresponding benefit to the effectiveness of the stability and support provided by the brace's use on the arm. It's a lot there. And if you start to think, I won't throw any companies under the bus here, but think of those pistol braces that a lot of people have, there's millions of them out there, that have a large portion of hardened plastic on top of the rubber flaps. That's my official rubber flap movement. They're going to say that that large plastic, hardened plastic, is there because it's designed to be shouldered. Okay? So those are some of the things that they're going to consider. And you can start thinking, if you have these firearms with these items, you can start thinking, and this is why I'm doing this way. I'm presenting it so I want you to think about what this actually means and what you have and how it affects you or somebody you know or love. Again, share this with everybody. Every firearms owner needs to know this now. So, some more things. Okay, let's move on. There's more. Aim point. Appropriate aim point when utilizing the attachment as a stabilizing brace. If the aim point when using the arm brace attachment results in an upward or downward trajectory that could not accurately hit a target, this may indicate the attachment was not designed as a stabilizing brace. Secondary grip. Now, listen to this one. The presence of a secondary grip may indicate that the weapon is not a pistol because it is not designed to be held and fired with one hand. If you remember the whole rush where people were taking vertical foregrips off of their pistols and putting on angled foregrips because that was not a violation under the NFA per se, now they're saying, hey, if you have a secondary grip on there, then it's obvious you're not using it with one hand. It will be an SBR at that point or a short barrel shotgun. Sights and scopes is the next one. Incorporation of sights or scopes that possess eye relief incompatible with one-handed firing may indicate that the weapon is not a pistol because they're designed to be used from a shoulder fire position and are incompatible for the single-handed shooting that arm braces are designed and intended. So think of that. Now you can have a regular red dot because they're not magnified, right? It's not really magnified. The optic, there's not that eye relief issue. Say you got an ACOG on there. Well, you can't use an ACOG at an extended pistol range and have everything be clear, right? So they're saying the presence of that type of item where you have that eye relief factor, that's going to make that an SBR versus an AR pistol. Next is peripheral accessories. Installation of peripheral accessories commonly found on rifles or shotguns that may indicate the firearm is not designed and intended to be held or fired with one hand. These include, but are not limited to, the installation of bipods or monopods that improve the accuracy of heavy weapons designed and intended to be fired from the shoulder, or the inclusion of a magazine or a drum that accepts so many cartridges that it increases the overall weight of the firearm to a degree that it is impractical to fire the weapon with one hand, even with the assistance of a stabilizing brace. So if you think of all these factors, you and I could have the exact same firearm. Let's say we both have a SIG MPX. Same item, Same trigger, same everything. However, mine's bone stock. Yours, you put on a low-powered magnified optic. Well, under this holistic case-by-case approach, mine would still be considered a pistol with a stabilizing brace. Yours could now be considered an SBR just by adding that on there. All right, let's say they're both stripped, but mine has one of those hand stops. Well, the presence of a hand stop, that little piece of plastic that's that big, would now, according to the ATF, tell them that's for a second hand. That's not for one-hand fire, SBR. Again, same gun. I have a 20-round mag from SIG. You have a beta mag, 100 rounds. They're going to say that that's so heavy that that's not intended to be fired with one hand. That's an SBR. And they even say that these factors are based on known stabilizing braces and similar attachments. No single factor or combination of factors is necessarily dispositive, and the FAT-D examines each weapon holistically on a case-by-case basis. They then say that because of changes in design and configuration and of weapons or attachments, as well as future changes in technology, this list is not exhaustive, meaning there's all kinds of room for improvement on their end. They also say ATF recognizes that before issuance of this notice, there was a misunderstanding by some that a pistol assembled with any item purported to be a stabilizing brace still would be considered a pistol regardless of other characteristics. The objective factors discussed here make clear that while some stabilizing braces may lawfully be used on pistols without bringing the firearm within the purview of the NFA, that it is not necessarily the case for every pistol, because some firearms are configured or have characteristics such that they meet the statutory definition of a rifle or a shotgun. ATF understands that most individuals who acquired affected stabilizer-equipped firearms did so in good faith reliance on representations made by those selling the stabilizing braces or the firearms, that those firearms were not subject to the NFA. Consequently, following issuance of this notice, ATF and DOJ plan to implement a separate process by which current possessors of affected stabilizer-equipped firearms may choose to register such firearms to be compliant with the NFA. As part of that process, ATF plans to expedite processing of these applications, and ATF has been informed that the Attorney General plans retroactively to exempt such firearms from the collection of NFA taxes if they were made or acquired prior to the publication of this notice in good faith. This separate process may include the following options: registering the firearm in compliance with the NFA, permanently removing the stabilizing brace from the firearm and disposing of it, replacing the barrel of the firearm 16 inches or greater for a rifle, 18 inches or greater for a shotgun, or surrendering the firearm to the ATF or destroying the firearm. As owners, until that process is separately implemented and absent of substantial public safety concern, ATF will exercise its enforcement discretion not to enforce the registration provisions of the NFA against any person who, before publication of this notice, in good faith, acquired, transferred, made, manufactured, or possessed an affected stabilizer-equipped firearm. The contents of this document do not have the force and effect of law and are not meant to bind the public in any way. This document is intended only to provide clarity to the public regarding existing requirements under the law or department policies. So once this is published, then you'll have 14 days to comment against the implementation of this if you so choose. There are certain ways you can submit it. If you really want to know, look in this letter. I'll have it linked down below. But if you have profanity in your response, they're not going to consider that a valid response. However, they will keep that. And all responses will be made public on to the ATF, as well as the website in which everything goes to for the comments. And it will all be available for Freedom of Information Act access as well. So in closing, ATF says we're considering a lot of things here. This is what we've been considering all along. Here's the information for you. Consider that. Do your firearms fall within some of these catch-22s? Though that would be an SBR, and you should have registered that. And you know what? Because we're so kind-hearted, we're going to let you register that for free, and we're going to do it in an expedited manner. And hopefully everybody will understand that you can't have an AR pistol with a brace unless there's a couple rare few ones that don't fall into one of these categories. So there you have it. It's a lot to take in, a lot to digest, but the truth is they're doing their best, the ATF, to make AR and AK pistols NFA items. They just laid it out, plain as day. Also, don't forget that the current ATF leadership met with the incoming presidential administration, if they take place, and end up getting inaugurated, because there's a lot going on right now. But they have told the Biden administration our two priorities are pistol braces and 80% lowers. And look what they've done this week alone. Polymer 80, and now this letter after the fact that they've did the SB Tactical thing and the Q Honey Badger. There's a lot going on, guys and gals. It really is. Now, don't forget, this has all happened under the Donald Trump administration. I know that's going to piss off a lot of people that watch this channel, but the fact remains he can fix this very easily. It's his DOJ. He can stop this, but he hasn't. Now, let's be realistic as well. Say he takes action Monday morning and says, ATF, Lombardo, you're fired. You can't do this. Executive action, this has to stop. That doesn't stop the next president, whether it's this year or 4 years from now, from walking that back, and we're in the same situation again. Please thumbs up the video, as it will need to break the YouTube algorithm to get out. So please, as a viewer, if you could do that for me, it would help not just me get the word out, but it'll help people receive this news so that they can be aware, because there are millions of people who have these firearms that if you go through those things that I went through, those factors, they're probably SBRs. So, again, thank you. A lot to take in. We did old school style here. But it's serious, guys. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate you sticking by for this long explanation, but it was needed. Trust me. If you could, please share it. It's only going to get the information out to the people who need to know this. If you're looking for Second Amendment news, you have found the home. Please consider subscribing to Guns and Gadgets. This is where I report on the Second Amendment news, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, every single day. And thank you for your time. Until we see each other again, be safe, stay vigilant, carry your weapon, and I'll see you on the next one. And you know there's going to be a next one. Take care, everybody.